Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Made. My guest today is Cheri Magid, and she is a writer. Sorry, now I have to find a specific title. She is a writer and also an Associate Arts Professor of Dramatic Writing at NYU Tisch. So welcome, Cheri. She is a longtime friend of mine that I haven't seen in years.
In way too long.
Way
it doesn't
too
make any
long.
sense.
Oh my gosh. Cheri chose to talk about Community, Season 3, Episode 4, Remedial Chaos Theory. Now, I'll start with the synopsis, I guess we'd call it, of the series Community, in case you guys haven't heard of it, which shame on you. No. Let's see here. So Jeff Winger, who's played by Joel McHale, right, is disbarred and suspended from his law firm when it is discovered that he lied about having a bachelor's degree from Columbia University. To earn a legitimate degree, he enrolls at Greendale Community College in Colorado. He quickly becomes attracted to his classmate, social activist Britta Perry, and pretends to run a study group in order to spend time with her. Britta invites classmate Abid Nadir, a socially awkward and pop culture obsessed student who in turn brings other classmates along. Religious single mother Shirley Bennett, naive overachiever Annie Edison, former high school football star Troy Barnes, and bigoted elderly millionaire Pierce Hawthorne, who's played by Chevy Chase. Despite their differences, the group's members soon become close friends. They are often roped into helping the college's flamboyant dean, Craig Pelton, in his schemes to make the school seem more respectable, as well as having to deal with the antics of their mentally unstable teacher and eventual classmate and friend, Ben Chang. Okay, so in Remedial Chaos Theory...
Wait, can I interrupt you? That is it's so funny because that summary of Community is so not what Community is. It's like what Communities... yeah, it's what Community started doing, but the fun of it is it went in season 1 and the paintball episode, it just started going way off of that, and the college, it's just an exercise in meta storytelling and turning stories into really unexpected scenario. So anyway, I just found that so interesting that that's what it says. Wikipedia. Come on.
I know. Well, I'll see if you agree with this part.
Okay, yeah, I'm sure I will. It's
all right. Okay, so Remedial Chaos Theory is the 4th episode. I already said it. The 3rd season of the series. I just want to find, because they're given a lot of technical stuff here. Okay, so it follows the study group to the housewarming, right, of Troy and Abid, right? And when Jeff throws a die to determine, okay, so the pizza comes, they don't have this in here. So they order pizza and they're all sitting around and none of them want to get the pizza. So they all put their fingers on their nose. And so Jeff decides he's going to throw a die to determine, and there's 7 of them, who will go to collect the pizza delivery from downstairs. 7 different timelines unfold, showing each member of the group leaving to collect it, depending on the outcome of the die, including, oh my God, I'm going to say this word wrong. Oh my gosh. You know this word, canonical, Canonical, Canonical.
Thank you.
Canonical. The speech pathologist is the writer. Okay. Canonical timeline in which Abid catches it before it lands. Excuse me. The episode was intended to be the 3rd episode of the season. I don't know if you knew this, but was delayed by a week due to filming, editing, and visual effects overrunning as a result. Competitive Ecology, due to be 4th, was aired 3rd. This also won.
It was nominated for an Emmy.
Yes.
I don't think it won, but it was nominated.
Wait, yeah. As McKenna received, that's one of the writers, I believe, right? Received a PAAFTJ award and an Emmy award nomination. Sorry, there we go. For his work on the episode. It also received a Hugo Award nomination.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, well, obviously you're an expert on Community.
I don't know if I'm an expert, but I'm a fan.
Don't you?
I did. I mean, I actually taught it, which is hilarious. I taught it for a long time.
Yeah.
For a long time. But so wait, what was your question?
Well, I was going to get into why did you pick this episode, I guess, in this series?
Yeah. Okay. Well, there's so many different reasons why I picked the episode. I mean, like I was also, so as I was telling you, I had some contemporary episodes that I was thinking of. There was one from The Bear that I had like watched after I picked this. That I just think season 2 of The Bear, they're doing amazing things. And then I also thought of doing the Severance finale, but you can't talk about the Severance finale without ruining the whole thing for everybody. Right. And I thought that was mean. But I think like what was interesting is like, I'm somebody who I'm a writer, but I also mostly at NYU teach television writing. And I have a lot of students that are out there writing TV. And so I look at a lot of television, and this was like the knee-jerk response. This was the boom. That's the first thing that comes into my head. And I think for several reasons. One is that I remember when I started teaching it, I didn't really know it that well. And I started watching a different episode, and it was this karaoke episode. I can't remember which one it is. And it was so great that I like redid it. And then my husband came home, rewatched it, and he came in, and then I had to watch the other one. And he's like, what is this? And I'm sorry, I don't know if we can swear here. Well, I didn't. I stopped myself, even though I wanted to. Yeah. So I was. So it just was such amazing storytelling. It was so inspired, and I was obsessed with it. And then there was a writer friend that came to visit, and I was like, "Oh my God, you got to see this episode!" And when the 5th timeline, I think is the craziest. And the thing is, like, when you're a writer, you're like tracking all the things that are happening in a different timeline, and you're like, okay, well, all of this has to go off like a game of, remember that old game Mousetrap, where like one thing causes the other. Like you're just waiting for it to happen, and it happens in such a crazy, unlikely way that it's just absolutely delightful and hilarious. And so those were some of the reasons why I chose it. And also, like, we to this day still quote it. Like, still, in fact, as you and I were talking before the episode, you said came up organically, and I said that's literally a direct line that Pierce says like over and over again. So it's very quotable, and it's so zany, and it feels like in watching the episode that the actors are having a freaking blast. And if you read anything about Community, it was not a very happy set, but it seems like they were happy. Yeah, it really wasn't a happy set, but it seems like they're having a blast. It's just fun. So
it is. I mean, it's great. It's a great show. It's definitely very different. And it's still, I mean, I had watched it back, I think, when it came out, but I did not watch every episode. And then you were like, don't binge all these episodes. You like told me specific ones to watch. But from what I can see, in a way, it's still timeless. Like, even though it's when was it? When did it come out?
It was like in the aughts. I mean, like it was a long time ago. I think.
Yeah. They actually, on this summary too, they do go through each scenario, but we don't. Need to, I guess, do that. Of course, like the last one is that if it was that one, right, that everything would have just like, there would have been a fire. Pierce would have died.
The fifth timeline is the darkest timeline. Yeah. And also one thing that's fun, just that the summary doesn't say, is that basically Jeff devised a game whereby he would never have to get the pizza.
Right.
And and then when he gets the pizza, everything goes right.
Everything goes right. Yeah.
Yeah. So
he needed to leave.
He needed to leave for them to be able to have the party. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think about timelines like that? Do you ever think like, oh, if I had left 5 minutes earlier, maybe this would have happened? Or why was I running late? Why was I late? Maybe if I had gone earlier, then something bad would happen. Like, do you ever think like that in timelines like that?
I'm trying to think. I mean, I've certainly thought of it, but I'm like, do I consistently think like that?
Right.
I don't think so. I think that like as a writer, I find the structure really interesting. And I think about structure of storytelling a lot as a writer, because I feel like I'm always interested in the relationship between form and content, and how the container like is also like what the thing is. So I think that's also something like, just that this moment can go like and there's repetition in it, which is also really fun. So I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess like we all have different, like, it's true that, okay, you know, it's like with a draft of something, it can go in a million different ways depending on so many different things that you're experiencing. So I think of it that way, that like,
so you think of it more in the writing.
Like I say to people, like, writing's never done, it just stops in interesting places. So I think it's so affected by like what you're doing at any given moment. So yeah.
In elementary school where I work, they say, when you think you're done, you've only just begun. When they're writing.
Well, that is definitely true as a teacher, but you know, at a certain point, like as a writer, you're like,
it's done.
It's got to be done. Those camera people need it. I got to stop being obsessive compulsive about it. Yeah.
Because I was going to say, I always think of that movie Sliding Doors with Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yeah,
I mean, I mean, if I thought like that all day, I'd drive myself nuts.
You'd go crazy.
There will be times when I'm late for something, or I'm like, you know, why did this happen? Or you know, and I'm like, maybe it saved me from something like that. That's the only time it ever will, you know, really cross my mind. But I don't live too much.
I mean, I think sometimes about like why something was meant to happen. Like I have a very good friend now. I met her at a party, and we met because she liked what I was wearing and I liked what she was wearing. And she asked me what I did, and I said, I'm a writer that writes about sex and intimacy. And she said, I'm a writer that writes about gender and politics. She's a columnist for The Nation. And I literally like had this thought, oh, I'm at this party to meet you. That's why I'm here at this party. So I think that there's something to it. And I think I think I literally was at that party to meet her, because she's one of my dearest friends now.
And good thing you wore what you wore, because she wouldn't have.
Yeah, because otherwise the whole thing would have gone. Yeah, it's always, Jackie, as you know, I know you know, it's always about clothes. Always.
Yes.
It's always about clothes.
Yes. All right. Yeah. So I have just like my random notes that I took during it. So I thought it was interesting that Annie had the gun, and the show Annie Get Your Gun, the musical. I don't know if that was done purposely funny. Or not. You know, that's my little thing. Just, I loved the part when Shirley goes to get the pizza, and then she comes back and she's like, all of you are making googly eyes at each other. And they look at each other and they all like make faces. And Chevy, I always keep calling him Chevy Chase. It's Pierce at the end with the gnome troll, or that part.
Oh my God, the gnome, the troll is amazing. Yeah. The troll is amazing.
Troy with the candy cigarettes. I was like, and then the toilet olives. There's
the toilet olives
on the toilet. I mean,
that's another thing that we'll say. How are do we need to replenish the toilet olives? Like, we still say that. Yeah. And yeah.
So, and then I teared up when they were all dancing together.
I know, it's really joyful. Yeah, which is nice.
Because that's when Jeff comes back after getting the pizza. They are all dancing together, and he smiles and everything. So I love that part. So that is upsetting if they wasn't such a good set, but you know, I felt the joy in that. So.
You know what's fun too is like if you look at outtakes of it. So Troy is played by Donald Glover, who like nobody really knew who he was at that point. And so when he's looking in Annie's purse and he's like, does anyone know what a pregnancy test looks like? Yeah, that's what it is in the episode. And they describe it, and he goes, so this is a gun. Right. And there's outtakes of him going, does anyone know, like, and lists like 10 different objects. You know, he just was like spitballing, and like, it's just really funny because no one knew what he was going to say.
That's awesome. That's funny.
Yeah.
So did they go with the pregnancy test one? Is that maybe what they did?
I
don't
guess
know.
so.
That's funny.
I guess so.
Yeah, I should have looked that up. Was there much, well, maybe not for this episode. Do you know if there was much ad-libbing in this series?
I mean, like, I really think that the actors playing, Donald Glover and the guy playing Abed, I think that they had such a rapport that they probably ad-libbed a little bit more. I mean, Joe McHale started as a comedian, so probably he ad-libbed, and then the people that were more actors may not have been.
So who's your favorite character, you think, on this? Do you have a favorite character? I'm not sure.
I mean, like, I love all of them, but like I love all of them. And I think that I think of another quote from there is Annie calls when she finds out what Jeff cooked up so that he could be avoidant of this. He says, "Jeff, you wily jackrabbit," which is another like quote that I always say, "You wily jackrabbit." And so I mean, like, the fact that he's always got an angle on something, and he's kind of a dick, but he's but lovable too.
That's okay.
I think that's acceptable.
That one's acceptable.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I just feel like they were, I guess what my answer would be to you is they're such a good ensemble. The way they're all ricocheting off each other, and I just loved watching that. And also, like, I guess, like, if I had to pick my favorite character, it would be the writing. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, the nerd that I am there. I just think that some of those episodes, like, they have a claymation episode that's a Christmas episode. Did I tell you to watch that? Abed's Uncontrollable Christmas.
I didn't watch it this round. I think I did, though, years ago.
It's so great. It's so great. So
I'll have to watch that. Is there a character no, there's probably not a character that you relate to?
It'd be really sad if I related to any of those characters. I mean, do I relate to any of them? Like, I think that the thing is about, like, they're such what do you go? They're like tropes in a way, you know, like the ingenue and the, like, you know, all of those things. Do I relate to any of them?
Do you see yourself in any? Like, Annie was kind of annoying. She's kind of annoying, but there's certain things about her, like the worrying about stuff, and, like, I could see myself being a little like that in college, or being, you know, maybe that. But there's not. I don't know. I don't think I really.
I mean, relate to. I mean, like, I appreciate the intense commitment to imagination that Troy and Abed have. You know, they have this whole room in their apartment called wow, I'm gonna botch it. It's not the Imaginarium, but it's something like that. Dreamatorium. Maybe it's the Dreamatorium, where they, like, it's like a grid, but, like, anything can happen in there. I mean, like, I feel like I should have I guess I do. I have an office where I write, but like, I should make it like a dreamatorium. It's like, that's commitment.
Right. All right. Let's get into your writing. Okay. How did you, I mean, tell us the story.
The story of how I started writing?
And did you always write, or did you support yourself? I mean, obviously you were always writing, but I mean, did you, from what I've known of you, you've always been a writer, and it's not like you were working another job to support yourself while you wrote, right? I mean, that I knew of, but I don't know.
I mean, when I first started out, you know, I'm very lucky to have a teaching position in New York, which also allows you to, like, not take the jobs that you don't want. So there's that. But I mean, there were definitely times where I was just writing, and you know, I mean, like, I was not the richest person in the world during those times, but I could support myself. And or I did, like, I mean, I did so many things to support myself, like, you know, those thankless jobs that you're grateful for, like temping or catering or any of those kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, like, I always wanted to write. I came from parents that, it's interesting because they took me and my sister to a lot of theater, and they took us to a lot of art, and they got a writer who started in theater and a visual artist. And so we always joke, you didn't take us to Carnegie Hall, so you didn't end up with the musicians, because we were very literal minded. Yeah. Like, okay, one of us will take one lane and one will take the other. Yeah. Although we've both had crossover, because I have a show as a visual artist right now, which is hilarious, and she also has books that she's written. So so my entry point was through theater. And I just started writing plays, and then they started getting produced, and then I started getting commissions. And now, so I write theater, I write opera. So I write librettos for opera, and I write, I'm writing a podcast, a scripted podcast right now. I've also, like, one credit that, like, all my students and people of a certain demographic are really thrilled with is I wrote on Arthur, the kids TV show, which was really fun. And I've written screenplays.
What episode of that?
Yeah. So they were later episodes. So the I also thought about choosing one of my Arthur episodes, which I was like, how ridiculous for your show. Yeah. Okay. So what are they called? One is called He Said, which was about what is it? Bionic Bunny, right? Bionic Bunny. There's a special that comes on every year, and they all know it by heart, and they're so excited to see it. And then the cable goes out, and so each one of them is like telling the story, and they each get it wrong, except Carl, the autistic. Okay. The kid who's autistic, so he can remember it. But like, it was hilarious because when I pitched it and they loved it, and so then I started writing it, I'm like, I just created the most complicated Arthur episode ever, because I had to like come up with what the actual movie was. That's it, right? That we don't even see. Right. And then I had to come up with like 3 different versions of how it was incorrect within this 11.
Like Remedial Chaos. I mean, it's a little bit,
it was like a story within a story. Yeah, right. Exactly. But I was like, seriously, it's 11 minutes. I just made this like the most complicated thing. And the other,
that's so cool. I have to stop saying awesome, because that's all I say, but that is really cool that you
it's fun. And like, I'll tell you, since this, the Hudson Valley is at the time, my husband and I were going to, like, in the fall, we would go to corn mazes, and like, I'm very bad at getting out of a corn maze. And I famously said to him, they should give you colored pencils. And he just like started laughing. I'm like, no. So like, if you go wrong, like that was the blue line. And he's like, they should give them to you. And I'm like, okay, you're right. But so we had like a bunch of fights in corn mazes. So corn mazes live large. And then at one point, when I was writing it, I think I was trying to explain to him like what I needed, and there was a chase scene. He goes, "You should do it through a corn maze," and I was like, "Oh my god, they should have a chase through a corn maze!" And like, if you watch the episode, there's a chase through a corn maze.
Totally and then, watching.
Like, you gotta watch it. Yes. And then there's like crowd surfing on the corn. Like, I had so much fun with the corn. I like went to town on the corn. And the other episode I wrote is called Take a Hike, Molly. And it is, they get lost in the woods, which I'm also, as you can see, apparently I get lost in the woods a lot. So I was thinking of various trails. It's fun. It's fun. It's fun to take, for that kind of show, for whatever, to take your own personal experience and use it to tell the stories.
So. And then you're going to see how they, the word, animate it.
Animate. Like,
cool to see your idea, like, created by someone else.
It's so funny because the first thing that I pitched on the Bionic Bunny movie had all to do about these aqueducts and water and like water systems and whatever. And the note that came back from the animators was, hey, it's really hard to animate water in the program we use. Can you change it? And I was like, this is the whole idea. But I had to like come up with something else. But it was so funny. I was like, wow, did not see that coming. Can't animate water. Okay. So
oh my gosh,
it's really funny. I mean, it's like really funny when you whenever you're writing, you run into the practical problems of like why somebody can't do it, or even when you're producing something and you have to be like, okay, we don't have the budget for that, so like what's the workaround, you know? So anyway,
wow. I wanted to just go back to when you said your parents took you to theater. You grew up in Connecticut?
Yeah.
And they would take you into the city?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Just want to make sure. It's funny you talk about getting lost in the woods, because I grew up, you know, in the Hudson Valley around here, and I would be in the woods like every single day, and we would venture to this pond that was a little further from our house, and we would always be like, we're not going to get lost on the way back. We would always get so discombobulated on the walk back to try to get to where our bikes were. That was and I remember we would get lost, and I don't know, but then we'd find our way. But it was a panic, because normally we always knew where we were. Yeah. It was just funny getting lost in the woods.
I think that's getting lost as a kid, getting lost as a kid is like a terrifying experience.
But at least,
you know, and
let's say at least I was with my friends. And back then, though, kids would just play on their own. We would leave the house and be called back. So I mean, there was some panic, definitely. But we weren't that far from home, thankfully. And but
the kids have to like get home before like it's getting darker, and you know, it's really about Molly won't say she's sorry about something that she did. So
so I wanted to I feel like you have so many stories to tell about your writing. Your writing has taken you to a lot of different places in the world, basically. I know, but you can tell everyone, what brought you to the Hudson Valley was your writing, right?
Yes. Okay. Yes.
Why don't you tell that story?
You know, when you're a writer, you often apply to residencies. And so I applied to Byrdcliffe in Woodstock. And I went, and it was like a 3-week residency, and I just and I really loved it. I loved it. I mean, it was a little crazy because back then Byrdcliffe was like, there's a lot of wildlife that was like waltzing through. There probably still is, but you know, it's like kind of funny. And then
like camp.
I went back. Yeah, it is like camp. And then I went back a second year. I was supposed to go to a different residency, and that fell through. So I went back. And then I found out that they had these cabins that you could apply for. And I was like, wait, why didn't anyone tell me that? That's way more interesting. And so I got one. And so what that meant is I was able to be as much as I could. I had the cabin from May through September for 5 years. So I really, that's when I first started living up there. Like, you know, I was never a weekender. I was always like there for periods of time. So
can you tell the listeners and the watchers, the viewers, what is Byrdcliffe for people who don't know?
So Byrdcliffe was the first utopian community, I think, in the United States. And it was the people that were a part of it were craftsmen, and they did weaving, they made furniture, there were painters. The actual first part of Byrdcliffe, and they made these arts and crafts, beautiful arts and crafts, like the cottages. So the actual Byrdcliffe only lasted, as utopian communities do, not very long. So for like 5 years, and then there was another faction that split off. But I don't know at what point some of the cabins fell into private hands, and we still have friends that own one, which is super cool. But also some of them, the guilds, the Byrdcliffe Guild, took over at a certain point, and then it following in the tradition of artists that came up there to work, they made it possible for other artists to come. But there's some really famous artists. I think actually Chevy Chase was at Byrdcliffe. I might be wrong about that, but I think he was. And like, I think I don't know. There's some famous artists. I want to say Louise Bourgeois, but I'm not sure that's true because I might be. But there's some famous people that spent time there.
Was it? I might be mixing it up, but was it originally created for people who were divorced? Was there something with divorced people, or am I thinking of something
I don't
else?
know anything about that, but that's interesting.
My husband would know, but
well, I mean, yeah, right. You would figure that there's going to be a lot of people coming that have unusual, like,
right,
different from the norm backgrounds.
But it was like, because I think too, when it started, I don't know, I could be thinking of something else, but I thought because like when it started, like not a lot of people were getting, that was not very acceptable either in society, but I could be mixing a story up, so I won't say anything else. Basically though, Byrdcliffe, like furniture, you know, is coveted. It's worth a lot of money. Like that. Yeah. It's a whole thing. And there's a store in town in Woodstock that has jewelry and different pieces made by Byrdcliffe artists. So it's very cool.
Yeah. Made by contemporary Byrdcliffe artists. I mean, like because all that other stuff goes for a lot of money, but a lot of times you'll see Byrdcliffe art just like at shows in Woodstock. I mean, like it's a really it's like the original artist that came to Woodstock.
Yeah, very cool. So that's when I met you, and I was like, she's like the coolest woman ever. Like it was just, I don't know. I never knew anyone who did that, and I didn't realize there were residencies for writers. You know, I didn't know any of this.
Yeah.
So then from there, what?
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm just thinking that had to be 2006. Isn't that crazy?
That sounds, I know.
Yeah. I remember our first date at the Red Onion. Plug for the Red Onion?
It was Red Onion, not Miss Lucy's.
It was it was Red Onion.
Red Onion. Okay. Yes. Because you knew my husband through Sobs, through your Sob.
Yes.
Because my husband
I did.
on Sobs.
We still have a Sob.
Aw.
Yeah.
They don't make Sobs anymore.
I know. It's very sad.
I know. So then from there, what happened? So your residency was up.
Yeah. I mean, you mean in terms of the Hudson Valley?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were we were like, oh my God, we can't live in the city all the time because we haven't for like 5 years.
Right.
And that we can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
So we looked for another rental, and my husband was like, look at this house. Like he saw a listing, and it was for such a low price that we were like, what's wrong with it? And we kept coming up with, we're like, Native American burial ground. Somebody's been murdered there. Like all these things. And there was there was a like a clerical error that like was a problem. Like there was no title for the house. So because it got lost somewhere. So that was really why, but it was so, I mean, like the way that Hudson Valley real estate has like skyrocketed, like it's absurd. We were so lucky. Yeah. But it was a house also that really looks like a Byrdcliffe house. It's
very special, unique, and beautiful.
It's very special. Yeah. It's adorable. It's from 1850. It's been added onto 4 times, and it's 800 square feet, which also I want to say that our apartment in New York where I am presently is 1,000 square feet. So I'm the only person I know who went to buy a house and bought a smaller place than their New York City apartment. And I feel like there has to be an award for that somewhere.
Yes.
Yeah. But we love it.
Yeah. It's adorable. Last time I was there.
Yeah. It's
and you guys did a lot of work on it. Like you.
Yeah, we have a lot more to do, but yeah,
you did a lot on it then. A lot of patience.
Yeah. Yeah.
So where then did your writing take you location wise next?
I mean, you
Or what are
know,
some of the places that it's taken you, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, like, well, I just went to Greece for one of my operas, which was like super fun, and then I actually went to Paris the summer before on
Oh my
a
gosh.
residency, and I was like, I was literally like, oh God, it's the same thing. I'm like, wait a second, I have to go to Europe this summer. I need to find some situation that brings me to Europe. But I've worked. You know, the podcast that I'm I mean, I haven't gone there, but it's through Audible UK. So and then a play turned into a film of mine went to Melbourne, although it was during the pandemic, so I didn't get to go. But you know, I've worked like a lot of places across the country, like theaters, or I've gotten residencies at universities. In different places in Delaware and in Tennessee, which Tennessee has become like had become a second artistic home. Like the school that I was there has probably given me like 3 or 4 different residencies, and we were just there doing a play in April. So yeah, so I'm a big Nashville person now because I've been spending so much time in Tennessee.
So cool.
Yeah.
So cool. Wow. Are there a lot of scripted podcasts? I'm just curious.
You know, yeah, no, I know. Okay, so there apparently are, like, during the writer's strike, apparently there's a lot more now, but there are, I don't know, audience wise, like if it's comparative to the ones that are, you know, the podcasts of what we think of.
Right.
But it's a really cool form of storytelling.
It is like an old radio show. Like that's really cool.
It's fun because, like, literally my first professional credit was I wrote a radio play for NPR like a really long time ago, where I had never written for audio. I had never written a musical, and I had never written something historical. And I decided, again, like being the overachiever, that I was going to do all of those things at the same time. But it was super fun. Like, I loved especially watching the Foley artists, which are the people that make all the noises, you know,
cool.
Is so fun. Yeah. That was like part of the most fun part of it. So, yeah.
So will it be, because I know it probably sounds like a stupid question, will this be, because it's Audible UK, recorded in the UK, or can it be recorded here?
No, because it's mostly, it's going to be American. Like, we haven't cast because they need me to write more of the scripts before they're going to do that. But the people we've been talking about are mostly American actors. Okay. But what's cool, as you know, because you've done a podcast, is like what's attractive to actors is they can record from anywhere. They don't have to go to a studio together, and you can like do a whole season in like a much shorter amount of time than you can do a TV series, or you can do a movie, or a play. So it's so people, it's just fun. And also you can play somebody different. You're not bound by your age or your physical, like, because it's just the voice. So
I love that. And, you know, obviously audio books have become just people still read, but there's just less and less time, it seems like, for people. So this is even cooler because you don't need to be, you know, staring at something. You can just, I listen. I love listening to podcasts. I love listening to audiobooks. I love to read if I can, but a lot of times I don't have as much time, especially during the school year. So I'm really excited about this. So no pressure.
It's fun because, like, when you know, I've been writing the outlines, and the person who's like one of the production people is like, you know, they want you to think about what sounds obviously we're hearing. So it's like not just the dialogue, but it's like, okay, so so we need to establish that this is their house, and like one room, which is like a newer addition, has a higher ceiling, and it's going to sit if it has wood floors, and like, you know, you have to think about all this, and then there's a dog and like, what kind of shtick can the dog do?
Yeah.
Like, because like, so you have to establish various things. And then also there's these things where we're going into their heads. And so you have to come up with like, okay, give them an idea of what kind of a sound. So like whenever people hear that sound, we know we're in somebody's head. And so it's like, instead of when you're writing a screenplay, you're always like, you have to tell the story visually, like, because you're not relying on dialogue all the time. So this is like, you really have to rely on sound, and you have to think about how much information people can take in, because like we don't have visual clues, right? So like you have to really think, is a sound going to be confusing and people will be like, what is that sound? Rather than like, oh my God, that dog is chewing an ice cube. And that's what they do when they get home. They throw an ice cube on the floor and the dog comes and runs and,
so you have to do the pitter patter and the, and I never thought about that. That's, wow. That's really, I'm not gonna say cool. That is, that's really fun too. Wow. Are you going to consult with somebody, you mean? Or like to figure out when you're writing with the sounds, or you're just going to write what's happening?
So it's like basically, there's people that, there's like development executives that are like a little more focused on the story. And then there's the people that do the production that they're a little more focused on, not completely. There's bleed, obviously, but they're a little more focused on like, but what are we going to be hearing?
Yeah.
It's just like, when I was writing Arthur, there's like the people that are like looking at the story, and then there's the animators being like, hey, we can't do that. Or, hey, like, it's very funny because like one thing that is death in animation is a character just standing there talking. It's not. So you always have to think about, but what are they doing? What are they like? You gotta come up with things that they're doing. Cause like an actor can stand there and be compelling, but an animated character isn't going to be. So it's interesting.
Wow. Yeah, very. Definitely things I have not thought about. It's really, really cool. This like doesn't even segue very well, but what is your self-care? That's nothing to do with anything you were talking about.
That's funny. Okay, so right before, this is going to be a weirdo thing to say, but like right before I jumped on with you, I have been seeing a cognitive behavioral therapist for insomnia. Ooh. Because if you probably remember this, I'm like I was an amazing insomniac for a really long time. And so I finally, like, I tried all sorts of things, and then somebody told me about, it's basically like relearning how to sleep and relearning how to, basically insomnia, if it's not caused by a health thing, is a habit. And so you need to like create a habit to overlay over this very pervasive habit. So it's funny because there was just an article in the New York Times about it, and they said that most people, only need to go 3 to 8 times. And I was like, okay, screw you, New York Times, because like, I'm such a good insomniac that like it's been a year and like 9 months, but like it's been very interesting because I'm a strong habit forming person, so it's harder for me. And then the other thing is like 10% of the population are strong compensators. And what that means is you can override the need to sleep like pretty well. So because I had both of those things, I was like, no, I'm good. And I was like, out of my mind, but completely functional, and no one would ever know that I was just not sleeping.
How often do you go to therapy?
Now it's like once a month, and it was usually like because you have to keep these sleep logs. Here, audience, sleep logs, where you write like how much you're sleeping and when you think you wake up, and like
do you also sleep with something like a monitor on you?
No, he said that that actually people tend to have a pretty good idea of when they're sleeping or not sleeping, and they found that this is, I think for certain cases, going to the lab is probably better, but for many people, keeping the odds. But anyway, so I'm one of my self-care is to work on my sleep.
Yeah.
And one of my other biggest ones is I am an Ashtangi yogi, and I practice as you know, because we did that together.
Yes.
I practice 4 times a week doing that. And
I still do yoga. I actually do yoga every day, but it's not Ashtanga.
That's good.
Yeah. With a platform. It's a Boho Beautiful. It's called. They had a YouTube channel, and now they have their own. I'm on their platform, and I have to do that every day. I mean, if we go away on vacation, I don't know. Maybe I don't or something, but pretty much. And that's what really gets me. You know, take time away and everything. But Ashtanga. We did Ashtanga, and I will do I like to do some of the videos they have. It's Ashtanga based, so I always love the ones that have more Ashtanga in it. Of course, it's interesting though. Doing yoga for so long, there's still things I can't do now that I could do. Even after I'm not saying, of course, before I was pregnant, things changed, but I always thought, well, if I keep doing it, I don't stop. I should always be able to do this certain pose a certain way and be this flexible. And it doesn't matter.
It's not like that.
It's age.
No,
and
but what's really interesting. So during the pandemic, my teacher went on Zoom, and which is crazy for Ashtanga because everybody has their own sequence. Yeah. And she watches the little boxes, and she's really good at it. And, but what I've learned is the yoga isn't what tricks you can do. The yoga is meeting yourself. This sounds so hokey, so forgive me, but meeting yourself where you are. And also knowing okay, so my shoulder's bothering me, so what is the essence of the pose? How can I express it without pushing myself? So I found because you and I are both strong and stretchy, so we could do some of the crazy tricks. And I mean, I still have ego around that, but I've also learned I don't know, it's a good thing to know you can do part of something and you're still getting it.
It's just, and it's also amazing how one day you're oh especially with balances and on my left side. I was oh yeah, I did them both. I was great for both. And then the next day you're I'm falling all over the place. It's it really does humble you. And I definitely gotten over some things. I think it was it today or was it yesterday? I was I thought I felt pretpretty grounded this morning. I didn't think I was anxious about anything. And I'm whoop. And I just kind of laugh now. I don't get mad about it.
Yeah.
It's I'm not supposed to do that today or whatever.
Yeah. One of my friends always says sometimes it's just brushing your teeth. You just showed up and you did it. And that's it. And then other times you're wow, I was on. And then other times you're okay, but you're right. Sometimes there's no rhyme or reason to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't think I will ever get sick of it. It's just.
Yeah. I love it.
You could do, like I said, the same move 2 days in a row and it definitely feels different.
Yeah. I love it. I mean, I definitely feel I didn't do it on I usually do it on Wednesday and I didn't do it. And I start
weird,
feeling a little,
right?
Yeah.
I know.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Can you tell, I'm sure there's a lot of stuff, but what's one thing that you do now, for bed, for sleeping, I guess, that has helped you? Maybe that, one thing? Because I'm sure there's a lot.
Well, the hilarious thing is one of the, main things of doing this kind of therapy is that there's 3 5-minute meditations that you do during the day. And the idea is that during the meditation, you will get off topic. And so it's about bringing yourself back. It's not really about the meditation. It's about bringing yourself back. And then you're supposed to take two of these exercises and bring them to bed. And hopefully you fall asleep when you do one of them.
You do one. Okay.
So the three different exercise, one is a muscle tension and release. So like going through the body and like tensing something up and then releasing it. The second is a breathing exercise, and that's the one that I use most often. And then the third is a visualization. So it's like different ways of triggering the mind that it's time for sleep. But so you do it once during the day, the full set, and then you bring it to bed. And then so establishing routines, I guess I would say.
And these are all self-led. Are you listening to something or you're doing it yourself?
No.
Okay. Yeah, because it's not great to probably fall asleep with things in your ears, right? Maybe.
I don't know. It's just like, I think that a lot of it is about relying on yourself. Because like, he also like, I've tried various different drugs or like pot or whatever. And he like wants you to get off of all of them to prove to yourself that you don't need something to sleep. So
makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's helping.
Yeah, I mean, it's been really slow. Like I kept calling myself remedial girl and then I'd be like, I'm smart. How come I'm not getting this? And like, like a few people would be like, I think that's probably the problem. You can't smart your way through it. Like nobody cares that you're smart. That's not like helping, irrelevant. Not so yeah, but it is. It's just like I mean, I hate to I was telling him, I'm like, I hate to say it out loud, but I think I've turned a corner. And he's like,
Yay.
You have.
Yay.
So yeah.
Yay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
I love how New York Times like 8. What did they say?
I know. 3 to 8. I was like, what? Do you want to just make everyone feel like a loser?
Who are they surveying? I mean, come on.
I mean, God love it. I'm sure there are people, but like, for those of us who fall outside those margins.
Maybe the ones that had like crazy success, they're the ones they surveyed, Like
maybe. Yeah. Yeah.
What is something you can't leave the house without? Is there something? Like you're like, I have to have this on me, or I feel weird, or like it doesn't even have to be sentimental.
No, but I mean, like, I one thing I will say is that going back to it's always about clothes is like I like dressing up. I like dressing up for the occasion. So even when I go out to do something casual, not that I dress up, but I'm like very aware
of what you're wearing.
Of what I'm wearing, not in a like this is what I feel like being today.
Right.
Like that feels like that's how I like to go through the world. Like this is what I want to look like today.
I like that.
Yeah.
What can't you live without?
Yeah, I guess I can't say clothes again. I got to come up with something else. I mean, I would definitely say yoga, but we already covered that. So like, let me try to come up with something that we didn't cover.
Well, you could say yoga.
I mean, what could I not live? Okay, I will tell you that, like, I hope they watch this. I was out last night with basically two of my collaborators, one who's a producer and one who is an actor that I've done a one-person show with, and we created it together. And we just got into a conversation about like what motivates, like why we're doing what we're doing, which is a lot of times you're not talking about that. You're talking about the like, I mean, to make stuff happen, you're like, who's the what, the where, the when, the yesterday, the like more money, the like logistics of getting like, how do we get to blah, blah, blah. And like, do they have the right copy of the film? I mean, the right version of the film and like all of those kind of things. So those are like the stuff, but like to sit there and like, to like listen to them and then to be like, I've had this thought a few times and I feel like it's a sort of adjacent to what you're asking, but I feel like what I can't live without are people that I feel that are passionate about what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that like I could see the similar passion in me and them,
Mm-hmm.
and that I've created a life for myself where these are the people around me. Like, I'm so incredibly grateful, and that is what I can't live without.
I love
need
that.
like, yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think I said peanut butter.
Oh, okay. I didn't know we were going in that direction. I would have come up with like.
No, I love that you said that. I'm just making fun of myself.
Well, I was going to say clothes, but I already said that. So, you know, that's awesome. Yeah.
All right. That's the end of my question.
Yeah.
Do you want to, I mean, I'll put everything in the description about, you know, where to find you, all that stuff. Anything else you want to add or say, or?
No, I mean, if any of your people who watch this are near Storrs, Connecticut, I don't know why you would be, but so this film that I made is currently in an art show there, and it was the one that went to Melbourne, and it's a really good show. Really cool artists, and it's like so it's there through October 20th, and I think there's going to be a bunch of things that will happen from the show, meaning like I think they might publish a bound book of the play, and like they're doing all sorts of cool stuff, and so it's interesting. No, but it's just like, I'm so glad this was something that brought us back together, since clearly I'm just like, oh, friends, la 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 la.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, it was great. Thank you.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.